Hello, welcome to Algebra 2, Semester 1, Unit 6. This is our last unit, you guys, of this class. It will not have a study guide just for this unit or a test just for this unit. This unit will be included in the final. So the assessment for this unit included in the final. Just make sure when you're done with this unit to get the study guide for the final, and then that will be your ending exam. I'm really proud of you to make it this far. Good job. Algebra 2, Semester 1, Unit 6, Section 5.5. On page 1 here, you'll see we should end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos. And then it does say Test 6, but I evidently mistyped that because I have planned all along just to give you the test for this in the final. So, okay, turn past the first page. Mine are sticking together. You'll notice there's no vocab with this unit. That's because we're getting so close to the final, and I'll have you studying the vocab for the final. Okay, first thing that we're going to do here is apply the remainder and factor theorems. Review the quadratic formula daily. We'll be doing that in the warm-ups. So remember, the degree of the divisor must be less than the degree of the dividend. You all know how to look at degrees now. We've been doing that on several. So you notice the leading coefficient, this one is put in standard form where they decrease in their exponents. The degree of this one is 4, degree of this one is 2. That's what's required in order to be able to divide them. So first thing that we do here, we look at, basically we're seeing if this has an even factor, if it is a factor of this, and then we're just seeing what polynomial we would multiply by, and if there's a remainder, how much would it add to complete that. So we take this leading term, 1x squared, and we ask ourselves how many times would it go into 3x to the fourth. Might remind you of basic division, how you look at the first digit in numbers. And we would say, well, that would go in there 3x squared times, because we add the exponents to get the 4. So 3 times x squared would be 3x to the fourth. And then I just very lightly will do the signs on these following numbers, and I'll show you why, on the following terms I should say. 3x squared times negative 3x would be a negative 9x cubed. 3x squared times 5 will give me a positive 15x squared. Now you notice how I put a 0x squared up here? The reason for that is because I needed to have a spot for this term to go when I multiplied, and I knew that it would occur. So it's just like in the synthetic substitution, when you see that you have a degree that doesn't appear in your dividend at the beginning, go ahead and put it in there with a 0 next to it. Okay, now we draw a line down, and now we subtract, just like in regular multiplication and division, how you'll subtract when you're bringing it down here. So in doing that, I changed the sign of each of these. That's why I left that as a real light negative sign, so that I will remember now it becomes positive. And now this one was positive, it becomes negative, and now I can just add them, because I've changed all their signs. So 3x to the fourth minus 3x to the fourth would wipe out, and it should, otherwise we've made a mistake. We have a negative 5x cubed and a positive 9x cubed will become a positive 4x cubed. 0 minus 15 is negative 15x squared. Go ahead and bring down one more term so that we can divide again. Now x squared will go into the 4x cubed 4 times, we need one x there, x to the first. So now we go 4x times x squared would be 4x cubed. 4x times 3x, negative 3x would be a negative 12x squared. 4x times 5 would be a positive 20x. Okay? Draw the line, change all their signs. 4x cubed and a negative 4x cubed wipe out. Negative 15 and a positive 12 will make negative 3x squared. 4 and a negative 20 would be a negative 16x, and now we bring down our minus 6. Now we ask ourselves, well, how many times will x squared go into negative 3x squared? Negative 3 times. So we have negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times negative 3x is a positive 9x. Negative 3 times 5 is a negative 15. Draw our line, change all their signs. Now we add them. Remember, changing the sign and adding is just like subtracting. We just like to think of it that way. It makes it easier when we get into these multiplied terms. So negative 3x squared and a positive 3x squared wipes out. Negative 16 and a negative 9 will make negative 25x. A negative 6 and a positive 15 will make a positive 9. Now this is our remainder because x squared cannot go into x to the first. So we stop at that point and we write this plus negative 25x plus 9 over x squared minus 3x plus 5. Okay? Now, to check that, because it is important to check it, we take our answer there. We take this as a factor, x squared. Well, let me see if you can't see where I'm writing it. Take this x squared minus 3x plus 5 and write it down at the bottom here. X squared minus 3x plus 5. And we're going to take this that we got here, 3x squared plus 4x minus 3. We're going to write those two as factors like that, and then what we need to do is when we're done multiplying those back together, add in our remainder, which was a negative 25x plus 9. We should end up with this being our answer, if we have it correct. So we go ahead and we multiply this out. 3x squared times x squared would be 3x to the fourth. 3x squared times negative 3x would be a negative 3x cubed. 3x squared times 5 would be positive 15x squared. Now I take this next term and I multiply it by each of those. 4x times x squared would be a positive 4x cubed. 4x times negative 3 would be a negative 12x squared. 4x times 5 would be a positive 20x. Now I take negative 3 times each of those. Negative 3x squared. positive 9x. And a negative 15. Now I bring in my remainder that I needed to add in, negative 25x and a positive 9. And now I can just add all those like terms and see if I come out with what I originally had in the dividend. So I have 3x to the fourth minus 3x cubed. Positive 15 minus 12 would be 3. 3 minus 3 is 0, so that wipes out. Negative 25 and a positive 20 would be negative 5. Negative 5 plus 9 is positive 4x. Negative 15 and positive 9 is negative 6. And if you look up at the top of the page, this is exactly what I gave you to divide. I ask you to divide this into that, and that's exactly right. Okay, next problem, let's practice this again. It's a little bit easier with the binomial. We have x minus 2 going into this one. We did make sure and go 3, 2, 1, 0 on our exponents. So x will go into x cubed, x squared times. That will be x cubed. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. Now I go through, change all their signs and add them. That wipes out. 5 plus 2 is 7x squared. Now I bring down my next term, minus 7x. X will go into 7x squared, positive 7x times. 7x times x would be 7x squared. 7x times negative 2 is negative 14x. Draw the line. And now I change their signs, plus and minus. Add those, that wipes out. A positive 14x and a negative 7x is positive 7x. Bring down the 2, plus 2. X will go into 7x, 7 times. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 2 is negative 14. 7x, first we change their signs, plus and a minus. 7x and negative 7x wipe out. 2 and 14 makes 16. So we have plus 16 over x minus 2. Okay, again, when we check that, x minus 2 times x squared plus 7x plus 7, and then we're going to add in 16. X times x squared is x cubed. X times 7x, 7x squared. X times 7, 7x. Negative 2 times x squared is negative 2x squared. Negative 2 times 7x is negative 14x. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. Bring down our positive 16. Now let's add these together and see if we get our dividend. We get x cubed. 7 minus 2 would be a positive 5x squared. 7 and a negative 14 would be a negative 7x. Negative 14 and a positive 16, positive 2. You guys are doing fabulous. That is what you started out with to be divided by. Okay? Good job. Remember, the purpose of the video is so that you can pause it and that you can do this going back and reviewing what I've shown. In no intent do I expect you to just hurry through the video. It's not about watching, it's about studying. You've got to know how to do this basic math so that when we get into activities and projects, you can use the basic math. Okay, this one says that I want you to try, so pause the video and go ahead and try this. I will be doing it, so if you have to turn it back on, then you can turn back on and see how to do it. Okay, so we have x squared plus 2x minus 1. X squared will go into 2x to the fourth, 2x squared times, so that becomes 2x to the fourth. 2x squared times 2x would be positive 4x cubed. 2x squared minus 1 is a negative 2x squared. Draw the line, change all the signs. This wipes out. Negative 4 and a positive 1 would be negative 3x cubed and positive 2x squared. Bring down your next term and we're ready to go again. X squared will go into negative 3x squared, negative 3x times, so that becomes negative 3x cubed minus 6x squared plus 3x. Now we change all their signs. That's a positive 3x, positive 6, and a minus 3x there. Those cancel. We get 8x squared. 1 minus 3 is negative 2x. Bring down our negative 1. X squared goes into 8x squared. 8 times 8x squared. 8 times 2x is 16x. 8 times 1 is negative 8. Draw the line, change all the signs. Those two cancel out. Negative 16, negative 2 would be negative 18x. And negative 1 and positive 8 is positive 7. So we end up here with a plus negative 18x plus 7 over x squared plus 2x minus 1. Okay? Now you go ahead and try checking that. There's the answer. To check it, we would say x squared plus 2x minus 1 times 2x squared minus 3x plus 8, and then we're going to add in our negative 18x plus 7 remainder. Okay. That would be 2x to the fourth plus 4x to the third minus 2x squared minus 3x cubed minus 6x squared plus 3x. Positive 8x squared positive 16x minus 8. Now we bring in our remainder here, negative 18x plus 7. Now we add all this together. 2x to the fourth, 4x cubed minus 3x cubed plus 1x cubed. 8x squared minus 6x squared would be 2x squared. Minus 2x squared would be 0. Those all wipe out. So we have negative 18, and positive 16 would be negative 2. Negative 2 and positive 3 is 1. And then we have a negative 8 and a positive 7 is negative 1. That should be what you were given in the original problem, and if you look up here, it is. So you've done it perfectly. Again. Okay, next one. This one should be a little bit easier for you. Try it on your own. Pause the video, and I'll put the answer in here if you don't get it. Showing all the work, then make sure and see me. Compare with other students, see if you guys can get that. And make sure to check it. Okay, the remainder theorem, my tape's going to run out, but I'll try to fit this in. Remainder theorem says that if you plug this k value in, how you have x minus k, if you take and say that x equals k and you just plug in a k value, not with the negative there, that will be equal to your remainder. Okay, so your remainder equals f of k. Kind of cool. So if you plug in that value, that's going to be what your remainder is. In other words, if I took a negative 2 and plugged it into this polynomial, I would get negative 30 for my answer. That can be very useful in finding or using synthetic division. Oops, sorry. Rearrange the camera for a minute. Okay, that can be really handy when we go to use synthetic division because it's a lot like synthetic substitution. I believe I showed that to you guys on another tape. When we want to divide and see if x plus 3 goes into a problem, then we can simply say, well, that would be a negative 3 if we figured out what x equaled in that situation. So we bring the negative 3 here, and we do synthetic substitution like we've done on the previous tapes. Drop down your 2. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Add those, we get negative 5. Negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. Add those, you get positive 7. Positive 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. Add those, we get negative 16. So we know that if we were to actually divide that out in a problem, our answer would be the degree is 1 less than the dividend. Up here, 1 less than the dividend. So it's not going to be x cubed, it'll be 2x squared minus 5x plus 7 with a remainder of negative 16 over x plus 3. It also tells us that if we were to plug in negative 3 into the equation, into that original